Let me show you how to go through the initial configuration on Xiaomi 15T Pro. So once you power on your phone, you will see this Xiaomi Hyper OS text with this arrow. So we're gonna tap on this arrow, and then over here we need to choose the language that we want to use on our phone. So I'm gonna go for English United States, and let's go next. Then we can choose our region. We can scroll through this list in order to find our region, or we can use this search bar. So in my case, I'm gonna go for United States, and let's go next. Then we have to press next. Over here we have terms and conditions. We need to scroll down and choose that we have read and agree to the user agreement and privacy policy. Now we can set up our Xiaomi 15T Pro with another device. So if you have your previous phone, then you can transfer pretty much everything. Over here you just have to continue by either choosing Android or iPhone or iPad. But if you want to perform a clean setup, then you can just simply tap on skip, and this is something that I will do. In this case, I have two SIM cards detected, so I can actually choose which SIM should be used by default for calls and for mobile data. So let's do that. In your case, if you have just one SIM inserted into the phone, then you will probably not see this screen. Now we can connect to our Wi-Fi, so search for your Wi-Fi network, and then you can select it and enter the password, but of course you can also skip this by tapping on this skip button. Alright, once we connect, we're gonna go next, and now we need to wait for the next screen to appear on our screen. After that, you can sign into your Google account, so you can enter your credentials over here and then tap on next in order to enter the password. Besides that, we can press create account in case you need to create a new account for yourself, and you can also skip that if you don't want to log into your account right now. You can still do that later on in settings. If you do sign in, you will need to choose who will be using this device. So in my case, I'm gonna use this device, and let's go next. And then we have to agree to Google Terms of Service, and then we need to wait for the next thing to pop up on our screen. In this case, we can copy apps and data from our previous phone. Also, if you have a backup saved on Google Drive or on your Google account, then in this case you can go next, and then you should be able to find your backups in here. In this case, I don't really have any backups, I don't want to copy anything, so we can just skip this screen. You can also set up the screen lock, so you can create the password, pin code, or pattern, and then you can also set up biometrics as well. But once again, feel free to skip this if you don't want to do that right now. Later on in settings, you should be able to easily find these things. Then we have Google services such as the location, which I'm gonna actually disable. If you decide to use location, of course you can turn it on over here, but I can recommend you disable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth scanning, as it is really not necessary to keep this on all the time. And then we have send usage and diagnostic data, which I'm gonna turn off as well. Of course, location can still be re-enabled later on. Let's go ahead and go to the next menu. In here we have Google Backups, so you can back up your photos and videos, as well as other device data that is listed over here. So if you want to create backups, you can of course check these boxes in here. If not, then we can just decide to not create any backups. And now we need to wait again. Then we have the default browser, and usually it is also a search engine, what we can choose over here. In this case, for some reason, I just have a browser. So if I go over here, I can choose the default browser that I want to use. If you don't know which one to choose, you can just simply choose Google Chrome. It is the most popular choice, and it just does its job, honestly. So let's set as default. And usually after that we have the search engine selection. So if you don't know which search engine to choose, in case you see that menu, then you probably want to choose Google, as once again this is the most popular choice. After that we can continue the setup, but of course we can also leave it and get a reminder later. So you can then return to the next setup screen. In my case, I'm just gonna continue so I can show you what's next. Over here we have quick share that we can agree to use. So I'm gonna tap on I agree. Then we have Gemini, so we're gonna tap on continue. You can also set up the Hey Google voice match or voice recognition, so you can activate Gemini with your voice. But in my case, I don't really use this feature, so I'm just gonna tap on no thanks. Then we can also set up the Google Pay or Google Wallet, so you can add your credit or debit cards. But we can also do that by going to Google Wallet app later on if you decide to set up your payment cards, for example, on this phone. And we have some additional tools that are recommended to do before we move on, such as we can add another email, we can change this text size, for example, we can change the wallpaper and review additional apps. In my case, I don't want to really do any of these things, so I'm gonna tap on no thanks, and let's wait for the next thing to show up. Now we have some Xiaomi things, Xiaomi setup. And in here we can once again toggle location. We have automatic system updates. I'm gonna actually agree to that. I can disable this. We have personalized ads, which you can turn off. Of course, we can still see ads. This one just disables personalization. We have the user experience program and some other stuff that I'm gonna agree to. So let's go next. We can also enable parental controls over here. I'm not gonna do that. We can choose the font that we want to use on our phone. In my case, I'm just gonna stick with the default one. Let's go next. Then we have the launcher selection, so you can either enable the app drawer or just use the home screen only. I'm actually gonna use the app drawer in here. The navigation mode, so you can navigate on your phone with the gestures or with the 3 buttons at the bottom of the screen. You can also learn navigation gestures if you don't know how to use them. And let's go next. Now we need to wait for the preparation to be done, and we should be able to go to the home screen, I believe, right after that. There we go, the setup is complete. So let's tap on continue, and we are now in the home screen. So that is pretty much it. Now you can do whatever you want to do with your phone from now on. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe.